Okay, there are two more things that I want to talk about with exceptions before we are moving on. And there's a concept for basic try catches inside smart contracts in Solidity 0.6. And it doesn't work exactly like in other languages. It works slightly differently and is only for smart contracts. So let me show you how that works. Let me create a new file. Example TryCatch sol and just bring over something over here. We can make this work for Solidity 0.8 and then whatever is the newest Solidity version, and call a new contract that will throw something, and there's a function, like a function that doesn't do anything else than throw an error message. So if we are going to, actually that can be restricted to pure. Okay, if we are going to execute this one, and we are going to call a function that will inevitably throw with an error message. Now we can catch this. But we cannot catch it from outside. We have to catch it from within another smart contract. So the way this works is, let's create a contract called error handling. And just let me show you how that works. We have a function, there's a catch the error. It doesn't really matter how it's called. And if we want to call the other function with, like let's say we have the will throw, will is a new will throw smart contract. And then if we are going to call will.a function, then that one will definitely not work, because if we're going to deploy this and call catch the error, it will crash, because when it calls the a function, it will just require false, and the whole chain will just crash. The chain of commands will just crash, the transaction will not go through, everything will be reverted. The way you are catching these things is with a try catch. So the way this works is you try will a function, or whatever that function is, and then if that works, then you can add code here if it works, and you can catch here the error with the string memory, the reason. And here you could do something with the reason. And we haven't really covered events yet. I just want to throw in emit an event here that shows you that there's actually something happening. So just follow along. Let's define an event called error logging with a string reason, and then we are going to emit the error logging with the reason here. So if we are going to deploy this smart contract and we are going to catch this, then the transaction goes through. So it will try, but it will land in the catch block and it will actually emit an event. So if you open up the transaction details, you see in the logs part that there is an error message, that error logging event with the reason error message. Now this is for the require that will catch an error. There is also another one for assert, and that is a panic. An assert doesn't have any kind of message. So an assert only has an error code, and we could do here a uint error code. And then we could maybe event error log code in code, so we can emit the actual error code. Just to show you how that looks like. Log code. So instead of the require assert false, that will definitely throw something. let's deploy this and let's have a look how that looks like. Catch the error. It fails and it emits an error log code with the code 1. Yeah, seldom where this actual code comes from. But you can catch panic errors. And then for any other kind of error, which is then something that we are going to do in the next example, is the rest of them. So if it's not going to be an error, and if it's not going to be a panic, so if it's not going to be a require that fails, and if it's not going to be a panic that fails, if it's a custom error, then you can only catch it with custom, like with the rest of the bytes, memory, and then some low-level data. And I don't know, this will, maybe we cannot emit anything here. Well, I can maybe event bytes, low-level data. Log bytes, low-level data. And don't worry about it. If you don't know what events are, we are going to discuss them in depth later. Right now, it is just here that we can see some output here in the logs. Now, the question is, how can you throw low-level data? The thing what you need to know is an require will revert with an exception called error. And this is why you can catch the error here. And assert will fire an exception called panic. Now you can also have custom exceptions, and those custom exceptions are defined at the beginning of a smart contract. So I could say here, error not allowed, error with a string for a reason. And instead of requiring here, or asserting here, I can say revert not allowed error, you are not allowed. And this one is not an error, it is not a panic, and it's unfortunately also not really catchable. So it's very crude almost in how the exceptions are working. I can deploy this now, and I can catch the error. And you will see that we are logging bytes, and then we have to take care of parsing this low-level data ourselves. So the way this works is that one is the signature of the error, exception of the error. And that one over here is the encoded string, I would assume. And if you are converting it, then you get you are not allowed, which is the kind of like the bytes encoded string from over here. Maybe I cut 1 byte off, but it essentially gives you are not allowed. Yeah, that's all I wanted to cover with the custom error messages and TryCatch. I barely use them inside smart contracts, because usually if you are calling an external smart contract and it fails, then you just want to have the transaction fail. That's the whole point. It's an atomic operation. You don't want to interrupt that. But if you really need that, then this is how it actually works. So let's wrap it up before we are implementing our wallet.